Okay. So, welcome. I was saying a little bit earlier, like Zoom is not my friend. I don't know. I just always have these challenges and it's probably a user error. Um, but thank you for being patient. Um, I'm so excited for today and for our time together because I love having conversations around goals. And I want to give you a little bit of context on how this sort of came to be and evolved over the last few years. My background is in human resources and learning and development. And I worked a lot with organizations, large organizations, and employees, helping them create goals throughout the year and feel supported and creating milestones. And then coming at the end of the year, looking back, going, what were we working towards? What were we even trying to accomplish? And noticing how many people were just falling off the rails. And what came to me over the last 3 years when I was doing some of this stuff for myself was realizing there was a real missing piece there. And that's the part that I want to talk about with you today because there's this real opportunity to create goals that matter most to us instead of feeling like we're achieving or working towards something or some other version of success that someone else defined for us. So, um, I'm going to take you through a little bit of a journey on what I've seen happen in organizations from an HR standpoint. So we preach a lot about cascading goals because it makes sense. We want to create goals that align to where the company is going long term. So think of vision, thinking of setting big vision, setting our eyes on our North Star and where we're heading. So the organization, if they're well established, they're creating these strategic priorities, right? The senior leadership group is getting together and they're putting together their thoughts on where do we want to head for the upcoming year. And then those get communicated down to the different departments and functional areas like HR, for example, talent and culture being one of them. And then the entire HR team comes up with functional goals. Okay, what are we working towards that's going to help us achieve our strategic priorities for the year? And then from there, each of those individual teams within HR, like compensation, business partners, learning and development, they all create their own goals as well and trickle down into individual goals for ourselves. So then we create goals. And this happens across the entire organization. But here's the thing. We then jump into creating structure around them. So we've got this idea of, okay, I am going to focus on creating a coaching program because the coaching program that I put together is going to help develop and retain our employees. And our retention is part of our strategic priority on what we're focusing because we are losing people in the organization left, right, and center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a program. I'm going to jump into the tasks. I'm going to jump into an action plan. I'm going to jump into the tactics on how to make that work. And then we're going to update the tracking system. If we're lucky, we've got a tracking system on the back end that we can type things out and we can put timelines associated with it. And then we can start saying, okay, let's create quarterly check-ins and let's measure our progress. And then at the end of the year, let's see what we accomplished. Let's tie our salary increases to what we did. Let's reward our people. And in a perfect world, that works really seamlessly. But then this happens. Then our goals don't get uploaded or documented. I don't know a lot of organizations where employees are like, yes, goals. I can't wait to be a part of this and follow through with them. Suddenly, follow-ups with leaders and employees, we are doing it consistently, constantly, feels like I associate it with how I have to tell my children to put on their jackets or pick up after themselves or do something on a regular basis. It just feels like you're parenting. Remember to do your goals. Remember. And then there's also this lack of accountability and ownership, which At the end of the day, creates frustration for not only employees who are like, oh my gosh, this just feels like a check the box exercise, but also for everyone else who's trying to support them and can't figure out why they're not motivated. So then we create training. And then we think, okay, we're just going to show people. If they just knew how to create this goal and how to track it properly, they'd be on board, right? Over the years, that has not worked. I have been doing this for so many years, working with organizations, helping them build really strong goals and execute them. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And there's a reason behind goals not working out because we are spending so much time and energy creating goals from the logical side of our brain. We overthink it. We want to think about the how and we want to jump straight to a solution when we have a problem. I'm here to tell you that the missing piece of the process is about connecting back to our hearts and leading with our hearts. So here's what I mean when we're connecting to our heart. I put together all of these pictures as a representation of we are visual human beings. We think in pictures and we connect visuals back to our emotions and back to how we end up behaving. And if you think about it, our core memories, the things that stand out to us, are not the steps in how we did something. It's the experiences. It's the moments that created an emotional reaction in some way that hold them as important in our minds. So the same thing is true for our goals, is creating this visual, creating this description that taps into our feelings on how we want to be and what we want to tap into. We'll start recreating those experiences and those wants and those desires to keep them focused and keep us in check. So here's how we're going to get started. The first place that I love to spend time with is around our values. And these are questions that I work with leaders and clients all the time around is tapping into what's really important to you. The things that light you up, the things that drive you to move forward, the things that are really important to you to show up in your life. And I want to tell you this story because I thought I knew my values. I thought when I was training leaders, when I was helping employees really tap into their own values and lead themselves and explaining all of the things that I stood behind, I thought I was doing all of these things because I knew they were important to me. But there's a difference between what's important to you and living your core values. So, for example, integrity is one of those things that came up for me where I was like, I know that someone following through with what they said they were going to do is so important to me. And I know that because when people don't, it really bothers me. It gets under my skin and I get upset and I get frustrated. And so I looked at all of those moments that created frustration or just anger and just not feeling good. And then I started putting these pieces together and going, okay, this is where my values really show up. When I'm not doing something where I'm not growing, I can feel like it's draining me. When I'm not doing something that doesn't feel like an adventure and I'm not having fun, I'm not my best self. And then it wasn't until my coach 3 years ago was challenging me on my own values. And she was like, great, Natasha, you can list off all your values and you can talk about them as though like these are really important to you. So tell me about integrity. And so I did, and I explained it to her. And she said, great. Now, what does integrity look like for yourself? And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like I follow through with all the things that I do for everyone else. She's like, yeah, but where are you putting yourself on this totem pole as a priority? And what are you following through with to execute for yourself? And that one hit home hard because I realized, no, I am not following through with the commitments to myself about taking my health seriously. I'm not following through with putting myself and my time and my energy first so that I can be connected with the people around me. I'm not investing in myself the way that I should be that would allow for the growth to happen. And it was this flip of a switch based on a mirror that got flipped around where I started questioning everything that I thought was important to me and how I wasn't living those values. So, one of the exercises that I love to help people do is go through and ask yourself what's really important to you? What are your values that you need to show up? And ask yourself, what do those values really mean to you? Because connection, integrity, growth, and adventure, they mean something to me, but they may mean something very different to you as well. When I look at connection, this represents being present and connecting with my family, with my kids, with the people that I work with to fully be there and hear each other. That's important to me. And if I'm not seeing that and it's not showing up in the work that I do or the experiences that I have with my family, I notice it. My energy drops. I notice that there's this resentment that starts to grow there. Integrity for me means now, because I know now what that means, is not just following through with what everyone else says, but following through with the things that are important to me. Growth is all about personal development and continuously learning lessons that are teaching me things about myself that are allowing me to navigate my life and grow. An adventure for me is seizing the moment, seeing something when I'm in an experience that looks fun and taking advantage of it, being spontaneous. And this is one that showed up for me that I realized, wow, everything in my life feels so structured and so planned out that there's zero time and energy for spontaneity or adventure. And if that is really important to me, because that's what brings me joy, that's where I like laugh the most, that's where I have the most fun with my friends and my family, then what needs to change in order for that to show up? And so, my invitation to all of you is to take a look at what are your core values? What are the things that are really important to you that you want to make sure are showing up on a day-to-day basis? I have put together a tool for you that will help you do your deep dive into this values exercise. And this is something that I highly, highly encourage you to take some time, carve out some space to be reflective, to turn off all of your distractions and just either go for a walk or sit with a cup of tea and put some light music on in the background and connect back to yourself on what's important to you. Because these exercises and these questions to ask yourself is going to allow you to decide, where do I want to go from here? What do I want my next step to look like? So I will offer you out that tool. I'm going to post it in the chat here so you can take a look at it as well, and you can do it on your own time. Once you have that clarity and you can see what are the things that really light me up, where do I get the most joy, here's where you can start writing out your goal. What is it that you want to achieve? And I posted something on social media this morning too, because I have been watching the Olympics like I am addicted to it. And I'm totally obsessed. Watching athletes in their space commit to something and nothing lets them waver. Like I listen to their interviews and I hear about the things that they had to overcome. I listen to the pair skaters and how they were told when they were starting to practice, like coaches telling them, you won't be able to be made, like, no, you won't, nothing will come out of this for you. Don't try because you're not an Olympic skater. Like, don't move forward. And they literally took that, disregarded it, and said, no, this is my mission. This is what I want to do. This is what I believe in. This is important to me. And it reminds me how much we can get in our own way if we don't fully believe in the things that we're doing. So, what's important for you is to think about what is it that I'm actually working towards? What does game day look like for me? What do I want to achieve? Why is that even important? And the second question is, what will be different for you when you achieve this? And so these questions I want you to really sit with and think about. Maybe you've already got something in mind that you want to focus on. Maybe you've got an idea. Maybe it's connected to where the strategic priorities are going. Maybe it's not. But let me tell you, if every employee in the company knew what they wanted to achieve and why it was important, that intel is priceless. If I knew when I was leading a team that my employees, I knew what was important to them, you know what that would give me? That would give me the ability to put them into projects that was going to help stretch them. It would give me the ability to go, okay, I can see why they're motivated. I can see how this makes sense in their role, and here's how I can help them stretch. See, the effort and the importance about defining these pieces at the forefront will allow you to make the connections after. So we start with strategic priorities and we go backwards, and I'm saying no. We start with ourselves. We start with the things that are important to us, understand what those are, and then see how they connect to the bigger picture. So once we have that goal, we create structure around it. How does your goal cascade up to the business priorities? What does that really look like? I mean, you can take me for example. I create coaching programs for leaders and HR business partners so that they can understand how to really have great conversations with their people. At the end of the day, the business strategic priorities around retention, they fit, they align. I'm still doing things that light me up, but now I have a much more clear connection. I can see how creating a coaching program lines up so nicely, and I'm going to be invested in my goal because I created it. So it's something that I stand behind. So doing that legwork up front, then starting to create the structure, making it SMART. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. And this is about creating a goal that has all of those pieces in it because we know that when we create measurement around it, when we put a timeline on it, when we write it down and it's specific, at the end of the year, we can say, yes, I achieved it, or yes, or no, I didn't. And this is the part that people get tripped up on because we think, okay, I'm going to take a course and that's my goal. Or I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to listen to a podcast, or I'm going to sit in on these meetings. And I'm telling you that we naturally go to the action plan. Those are the pieces in our minds where we go, this is easy. Let's start tackling how we're going to get there. And I'm saying that is 3 steps too far down the road. We have to go back to what are we doing? Why are we doing it? And then make that goal smart so that we can create the action plan from there. So, what does the action plan actually look like? I like to break them down into 3 different sections: education, exposure, and experience. And the goal around, if I were to say, hey, I'm creating a coaching program for leaders so that they can have really great conversations and empower their employees to be their best and, just perform at their highest quality, then I'm going to create an action plan that's going to help support that. Maybe I don't know all of the different coaching tactics that I want to include in my program. So I'm going to go and do a little bit of research, and I'm going to make sure that in the next 2 months, I'm going to get myself really up to speed on best practices on things that work. I'm going to tap into interviewing people or learning from others and just taking it in so that when I get the exposure, which is, hey, have I looked at any other programs that have been successful? Hey, have I experienced coaching conversations that have gone really well, that have not? Can I watch any of those in practice? Do I have any mentors who do this really, really well that I could then learn from them as well? And then the experience part is now I'm going to try it out. I might do a pilot. I might have a couple conversations where I'm practicing doing some of this programming and getting some feedback on it. And this is the application of the new skills. So all of these pieces together is what makes the action plan really meaty and execute and allows you to execute it throughout the year. Here's the other missing piece here, because I want to tie it back to our visuals. Our brain works in a fascinating way. And what I've learned over the years is that our brain doesn't actually know whether we've accomplished something or not accomplished something. If we believe it, it happened. And so, even the nuances of the wording, of the language that we use, will help support things coming to us. It's where manifestation gets thrown around. It's where visualization makes sense because if we can see it and we believe it as though it has already happened, it shows up. And the reason behind that is because we can't keep doing things the same way that we've always done to try and achieve a goal that we're heading towards. I mean, it depends. If you're setting a really small goal, then sure, fine. But if you've got this great audacious goal, this this space that you're working towards, and you know how I function today, the way that I work is not going to work for me to get to my goal, then put yourself in the place of having achieved the goal. And here is where really sinking in to closing your eyes and visualizing what it feels like to have accomplished it matters. What it feels like to be in that moment where you are facilitating the coaching program and you're getting accolades and people are applying what you're using or what you're sharing, and how it feels in that moment is proud, is excited. And in order to feel that way, who do you need to be now? What does that look like? Well, I need to be confident. I need to be knowledgeable so I can really own the room and understand how to connect the dots when they come up. I need to be able to let go of feeling like I need to be perfect. I need to let go of the expectations that I need to please everyone. So when you imagine yourself achieving the goal, it suddenly starts to make sense as to who you need to be today and what needs to be different for you. And you're going to incorporate those pieces into your action plan. It also helps when you're talking about your vision, your goal, where you're heading in the present tense as though it's happening. It's happened and you're living it now. Again, it goes back to your brain doesn't really know what's future, what's past, and what's present. And if we keep talking about it as though it's now, we believe it and we start to believe it. And when we believe it, we start to see the opportunities come to us. Stacey, I'm going to call you out because I saw this live in action just over a year ago. And Stacey and I were in a mentorship program and we went through this exercise. And Stacey is the founder of My Friend Toothy. If you have not checked out My Friend Toothy, you should. And if you have kids, um, and she envisioned herself being on the Dragon's Den. And so much, though, as though we had this conversation where she was describing who she was talking to, how she was presenting herself, and what it felt like in that moment. So much so that I believed it too. Like I got caught up in her story as though it was happening. And sure enough, gosh, I don't even know how, like less than a year later, Stacy gets accepted onto Dragon's Den. And she goes for the interview, and all of these things start showing up for her because in her head, she's believed it and she's so focused on it. And this is what happens when we focus on our goals and we focus on what it feels like when we're in that moment, because it just, the feelings are there and we lead with our feelings. So I love to share stories like that, that shift. The other thing that is really, really important is how we navigate our goal after we've set it for ourselves. Because there are so many things that get in our way. There are the internal narratives. Our ego works in a way where it becomes so sneaky. And any sabotaging strategy that we may have had or has worked in the past is going to show up and is going to show up loud. Why? Because our ego likes us to feel safe, likes us to feel comfortable, and change is uncomfortable. Our ego starts to go, oh my gosh, what the hell is going on? And it sends us into this reaction mode. And so the cool thing is we get to choose how we want to navigate this. And I don't know how many of you have tried cold plunging before, but the experience of cold plunging for me is the exact replica of how my body goes through fight, flight, freeze, nervous system shifting, and everything feeling out of control. It's part of the reason why I build this into my practice because I love helping to show my body that I can help make myself feel safe. And one of my best techniques is through breath work. I love being connected to nature through walks. I surround myself with community and people who are going to help really me feel empowered. Journaling, gratitude journaling, and I am a big believer on vision boards, clearly, because it allows us to pull those visuals and map them together so that we can see and feel where we want to go and live into that now. And then the other thing that I want to really highlight is the dialogue, the internal dialogue. You know, the voice in our head that goes, you're just not strong enough, you're stupid, like, what are you thinking? All of that noise can get really, really loud when we're trying something uncomfortable or we're trying something new. And so, one of the practices that is so helpful is in the reframing of the narrative. So, you can take those narratives and write them down. What are the worst things that you say to yourself? Write them all down on a list, and then next to each one of those, challenge yourself. What would you say? What do you want to say to yourself? Instead of I'm not strong enough, it's I'm growing every day. How can you switch the narrative so that you're not coming down on yourself, but you're actually lifting yourself up? And I look at this in all aspects of my life as well. There are so many ways that we are surrounded by negativity and by people who are really not in a good headspace. And I think about the news. I think about our political atmosphere right now. I think about where people are at with jobs and income. And there is so much turmoil that if I spent a lot of time and energy thinking about all of those pieces, there's no way I would achieve my goals. And so I look at ways to personally strip out a lot of the negativity. I don't even watch the news anymore. I read books that uplift me. I put things in my calendar where I know it's going to energize me. I go back to my values and I start to make sure, hey, where am I living these throughout the day so that I'm in a higher vibration energy? Because when I'm in higher vibration, I actually can create things. Nothing gets created at a lower vibration. And so anything that I can do to elevate myself and keep me there, I know is what's going to serve me and my purpose in the long run. So get really uh I want to say honest with the things that you're exposing yourself to, the things that you're saying about yourself, the language that you're using. And you get a choice. You get to shift all of this around. So it puts you back in the driver's seat that you have the ability to make these choices and to use these tools. And then commitment, create a commitment to yourself. So the commitment to yourself is realizing I have this goal. What cannot come with me anymore? What are the old patterns or the limiting beliefs that I know get loud? And how will I keep this as a priority? What are the fears that are going to show up that I need to make note of? And how, when I've accomplished all of this, how am I going to celebrate myself? What does that look like? Is it something that is going to keep the energy and keep the excitement and keep you feeling like you're worth it, like you're important to be celebrated? And what does that look like? And we don't spend enough time celebrating. I know I don't. And it's definitely one of those things that if I don't put it into my structure of setting and achieving goals, it doesn't happen. It's easy to skip over. And so, really spending the time and soaking in those moments and those milestones to celebrate it. Same thing for organizations. When you're coming up with what are the barriers, what are the things, what's going to be a roadblock, and how are you going to navigate it? It's about planning out some of the things that you know have come up over year that stop you from moving forward. Okay, I know that I have been doing a lot of talking and a lot of sharing. So I would love to just pause and hear from any of you what has been coming up for you, what you've noticed about goals, what's worked, what hasn't worked, or what pieces of this resonated with you that you're going to take with you going forward.
I have a observation slash question for you.
Yeah.
So I'm not in HR, but I work with advisors. So I was intrigued to join this because like, oh, how can I use this when I talk to my advisors about their own business goals? My challenge is a lot of them are men. So when you start to bring up values, they immediately equate that to feelings and they get their backs up and they don't want to discuss their feelings or they just don't see it as relevant. So how do you convince someone that this part of goal setting is just as important?
Such a great question. And Jen, I'll tell you, working for a construction company, all like a male dominated organization, we dealt a lot with this. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Um, the part that, I mean, I actually had a barrier around believing that men were not okay with getting into their feelings. And some people, sure, have their guards up and haven't allowed themselves to go there. The majority of the men that I've worked with are really into it and excited about talking about it, which blew my mind. Like, I actually didn't believe it until I started experiencing it and noticing it. But what came out of it was more conversations around what's important to you. And why is that important to you? Well, it was more about helping guide the conversation with some questions without saying, okay, this is a feeling necessarily that we're going to get into. It's like, no, this is about creating direction and purpose. And in order to get there, we need to really connect with the things that are driving you forward. So what does that look like? And so it's really about reframing the question a little bit more,
Yeah.
but still pulling at the things. And you'll notice as soon as they start tapping into their feelings, you'll notice that they're actually more comfortable than I think they are at sharing
Yeah.
and talking about their feelings. That's what I've noticed. Is that helpful?
That is, yeah. I just wrote down using the words more of like creating a direction and purpose for your goals. I
Mhm.
think that would hit better.
It's funny too. I've done this exercise with like men in teams as well. And I asked them to draw their team. I was like, you know what, if you could, because we had described their team and we had looked at different ways that they felt like they were really contributing to the where they were heading. And they used descriptor words. And then I said, okay, draw your team in its best version, how whatever visual comes to mind. And you all get to work together, you all get to figure out what this visual looks like. No rules, like be creative, go draw it out. And they were so excited to get up to the front of the room and start drawing things. And not only did they draw this beautiful train that had like insane detail, but they drew hearts coming out of the train because they want to create the love that they have for each other as they continue to grow so that everyone else can feel connected. And I was like, what is happening right now? And these are not people that I would expect to be so in tune with their emotions. They're on project sites. You associate stereotypes with people who are in jobs like that they don't connect back to themselves. And it just blew my mind as soon as it started. We became, as soon as I put it out there as let's dive into this experience, they were all in. Um, they just needed to be led there. So it was
Yeah.
really cool to see.
Yeah. As you're saying that, I'm just thinking like advisors are all the time talking to their clients about what their goals are. So they don't get inhibited when a client is telling them about how it would feel to be retired. But I don't know,
Yes.
they feel different when it's themselves.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point too, because everything that shifted for me in the last few years was when I started doing the work on myself. So I became, what I noticed was really good at telling everyone else what to do. And I knew the best practices because I studied them, because I had all the information, but I wasn't going through the challenges that they were going through because I wasn't doing the deep work for myself. And so it wasn't until I started taking a step back and putting this into practice for me that I feel like there's just so much more that I can offer in how to help connect some dots for people because I'm not trying to just push information on them. I am helping to share experiences and I understand a lot more where they're coming from. So even tapping into, I may not have gone through retirement, but I've gone through the loss of something and the transition of something before that's completely different, where I haven't known what's ahead of me or in any of that space. So really helping guide them through understanding a lot of those circumstances by tapping into what they've experienced themselves, I think would be really powerful.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Well, thank you.
Um, Lindsay, Stacy, Tori, any of you have any other thoughts? What resonated or questions that might come up for you?
Nothing to add, but I did really like the original question because I often feel the same way being in tech space. It's very male dominated. And I think, yeah, as soon as the topic of feelings comes up, it's like a hard one to get through. So I like the idea of rewording it, maybe just framing it differently so that they're more, eager to jump into it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
finding the right language that's going to help them feel safe to go there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the reframing. I also, can you talk a little bit more, Natasha, about how to connect your like what matters to you as an individual to the organizational framework or goals that are presented top down? Because a lot of the leaders, like at my company, we're a global organization. There's a lot of structure to that process, and we're getting into it right now. Um, and I kind of brought this up because we had been chatting about it before. And a leader said, yes, but we do need to connect it. Like, I don't know, I didn't present it as well as you did. So when you say it, I believe it. But then I had a hard time kind of relaying that to the leader. Um, so
Hmm.
yeah, just how do we connect it more? Once we figure it out what matters to us, how do we connect that back to the organization?
100%. Yeah. And, maybe the meat in the middle is that there's two goals because I don't think organizations will ever get away from like we have to have a goal that's connected or disconnected. Like I know what their hesitation is. They don't want everyone to go and create goals that are important to them and everyone's in different directions and no one's heading towards the same point. The whole goal of cascading goals is to help people focus. And the piece that this helps make in terms of a connection is if I know what's important to me and I can get behind it and it aligns to my values, I'm going to see how it's connected to the organization and I'm going to help move that and drive that forward. So instead of the work being around, let's help them craft the goal, it's about what does the connection look like between their goal and where the organization is heading. The conversations are different. So the coaching and the leadership is less about did you create a goal? Does it line up? Did you create a goal and is it smart? And more about, I'm curious about your goal and let's create some connections to see how it does fit towards where we're heading as an organization. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it changes the conversation that happens to help people see that pathway.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, you bet. Great question. Okay, and Stacy, I just wanted to bump over to you to see if there was anything else that you wanted to share or add or contribute to.
Harry wrote something in the chat.
Oh, let's see if I can see the chat here. Oh, Carrie, one of the challenges that I have as a manager of people is that employees' personal goals do not always support the needs of the company. So how do you frame the goal setting with them? Never mind. Okay, you just heard what Tori was saying. Okay, great. I think that's everyone in there then. Perfect. Okay, so the last thing I just wanted to highlight or share with you because this fits really nicely into if you're looking to do even more work for yourself I work a lot with HR clients and business partners. And the program that I wanted to introduce this group to is going to be starting in April, where it is a self-leadership program specifically for women in HR, women who are supporting other people. And the reason that this came to be is because everything that I've learned over the years on how to lead self is the foundation to having credibility, making aligned decisions, knowing your values, speaking up, not feeling like you need to shrink or hide in the corner, and having real coaching conversations, even though they're tough, even though they're hard to do, and build that resiliency to handle the pressure while still feeling like yourself. So if this feels like something that you're interested in learning a little bit more about, I'm going to drop the link in here for you to add your name and email. Would love to follow up with a conversation to help share a little bit more about it. And I'm going to include the link in here as well for the tool on the values exercise so that you can use that a little bit more for yourself and use it, share it with people around you so that they can get into the practice of using it as well. Um, Let me share this here. With that being said, I finished the session. So I'll pause in case there's any other questions, anything else that you wanted to add before we close off.
This was great. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Now hopefully this goes in there. You can check that.
Got it.
Okay, and then I will throw in this link if you want to learn more about the North Cabin.
I like the name.
Neat. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. Um, and it came to me because I've been doing a lot of skiing recently too. And I don't know, there's been a lot of things that have gone through my head. But thank you. If you know of anyone that you think might be interested too, feel free to pass them along. And I'll send over this recording if you want to revisit it down the road. Just have it as a good resource for you. Otherwise, thank you so much for jumping on today, and I'll see you all around. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
See you later.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tori.